to SalesTV. Again, our regular Tuesday morning chat about sales and all things saley. But we haven't really got an agenda today other than to cover the normal sorts of things that are pertinent and pressing in the sales industry. Why do salespeople keep leaving their jobs? Why is it so difficult to get salespeople into the industry? Why do so few salespeople make their number? How can we help support people to make their number? So let's go round and introduce ourselves first of all. Alex.
Good morning all. Alex Abbott, founder of Sapiro, and very happy to be here.
Andy.
Good morning all. Andy Huff, founder of the Institute of Sales Professionals and lecturer at Cranfield University.
Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I'm probably known for being the author of Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers.
I can't remember what that book looks like. Oh, is that it behind you there, Tim?
Maybe. There may be one behind me, yeah.
And I'm Adam Gray. I'm Tim's business partner at DLA Ignite. And yes, it's fantastic to be here. It feels like the summer has arrived. So is that a good or bad thing for salespeople, the summer being here? Everybody feeling smiley and happy and relaxed, but wishing they were on holiday, maybe?
Probably not, given how many redundancies we've seen this year. Unless they are enjoying the sun because they're not working currently.
Yes, absolutely. So where are we at in terms of layoffs, do we think?
It's a happy, cheery subject, isn't it? We're really motivated this morning. There are free razor blades available if you write in for next week, folks. It's just like... Sorry, I couldn't resist that one.
Yes. No, it's fairly grim. But on the upside, as you pointed out, Andy, I think last week, in the US there are 700,000 unfilled sales roles. In the UK, did you say like 92,000 or something at the moment?
Yeah, there's a lot. I think, you know, we're in this weird situation, aren't we, where nobody really knows whether it's good or bad, it's up or down, it's left or right. You know, I mean, we were meant to have been in a recession. We didn't go into a recession. We've had hyperinflation, and now the news is that potentially, particularly from food, we're over the peak. And I think people are just weighing up which way it's going to go. So I think people have been let go, but I don't think that's the complete narrative. I think it's people who have not really been performing who've been trimmed. I see Tim wins, but it's true. The reality of it is, I think people have been, encouraged to move on, but people are still looking for sales roles to be filled.
Yes. So why is that the case? Why have we got so many people being laid off and so many roles unfilled? Surely there's some opportunity to fill the hole with the people that are surplus, in quotes, to requirements. And yet, I was speaking to someone just the other day. They were made redundant 2 years ago in a sales role. I mean, as far as I know, they're a reasonably high performer. I worked with them when Tim and I were at Oracle, and Alex. And although I didn't work directly with this person, and then they went on to another tech company, and they were like the highest performing salesperson. And then they had a change of direction, and they cut some of the staff. 2 years, this person has been trying to find a role unsuccessfully.
I do feel like, I mean, I feel like there's many problems that influence, the answer to that question. But one of the things that I see a lot of is many companies are still spending all of their time in that kind of 3 to 5%. Where's that 3 to 5% of my territory in market now, so I can sell to them now? As opposed to, well, actually, let's take the time to build relationship with the brands that we want to do business with, not necessarily today, but at some point in the future.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make, Alex, because if you read a lot of the influencers on LinkedIn, what you described in terms of, there's this mystic figure out there that's only 4% of the market is in market at this time. And therefore, there is a narrative out there that if you're going to spend your marketing dollars, then you just spend it on that 4%. That's the clever thing to do. Whereas, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I actually think that it's not the clever thing to do, because if everybody's doing it, it's a bit like the term best practice. If I know lots of companies that bought a particular software system, and they bought it because they were thinking they were getting competitive advantage, but they bought the same one.
Yeah.
So where's the competitive advantage? So if you're all doing the same thing, and I think that's one of the things that people that they miss out on, which is here's a narrative that we're hearing on LinkedIn, that we're being influenced by it, and we're all going to dive in rather than actually thinking, well, they're actually the smart thing is actually to talk to people that your competitors are not talking to.
Yeah, and you touch on another problem there around software and buying software. What's the next silver bullet that's going to help us generate pipeline and sell more? Well, it's the next piece of software that's just been created because it does X, Y, and Z. I think it's just adding to the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I put out a blog. I think it was I put it out last week. It was when I was on holiday, which I'd basically been told. I'd been told the information, and the person said, you can't put a blog out about it for 6 months, because I need to basically cover my footprints about who told me that. And what it was that she was a very big person on social and doing stuff on social media, and she was actually told by her management that they were no longer allowed to go onto LinkedIn. They bought this sales enablement product. And they had to do all of their cold calling and spam email through this sales enablement product because it could be tracked.
Cold calling and spam email.
We can track what you're saying. We can track what you're writing. We can track all that. We can't do that on LinkedIn. Therefore, the whole of the sales force is no longer allowed on LinkedIn. It was interesting, the response I got from when I put it out.
At least they can measure the ROI of nothing.
Yes, yeah. Well, the person that the friend that I spoke to about it basically resigned on the spot.
Why did she resign on the spot? Because of the enforcement of the tool, or because it was just one step too far?
Because she was doing the whole of her business through social.
Right. Okay.
And I mean, she's not even particularly good at social, but she was the best top salesperson, and she was doing all her business. And it was one of those things. Well, if you're going to cut from me where I'm getting my business, there's no point in me staying here.
Yeah. I mean, you're touching on another point, which I think starts to answer Adam's first question: why don't salespeople make their number anymore? Because companies are forcing them to do things that won't equip them. Didn't use the word enable there, Andy. Equip them to perform better.
Yeah, I mean, somebody said it earlier on, isn't it? It's that silver bullet that everyone's looking for, and I'm not sure it exists. Well, it does actually. It's in the person somewhere in the person. Yeah. But it's not in any of the tools and technologies. It's how that person uses those tools and technologies. So it's always back to the individual, isn't it? They're getting that person enabling that person to be the best that they can be is an acceptable strategy. But enablement is actually, to Tim's point, here's this platform, get on, and we will make you use this platform, and that is going to enable you to be successful. No, not so much. It doesn't, because actually, and obviously, I don't know whether you put the name of the platform out there, but everybody else will be buying that platform, or there'll be a bunch of salespeople in that company trying to sell that platform to a whole bunch of everybody else.
That's a really good point, isn't it? Welcome to the company. Here's one systems training. Off you go.
Yeah.
That's it. What we'll do is we'll show you how to enter things into the CRM. We won't show you how to create an opportunity that's worth entering into the CRM.
Yeah.
But I think it's really interesting that Alex said 4% of businesses are in market at the moment. So we'll focus on that 4%. Well, how do you know who the 4% is?
They've got 4% written on a little badge.
Let's see.
Right. That's
Really easy to spot them.
Yeah. So when you drop one of those uninvited meetings into their calendar for a Zoom meeting, then you get to see whether or not they're wearing the 4% badge, and you can leave if they're not.
Absolutely, yeah, they're dead easy to identify. There's a technology to find them as well, because they nominate them out. If you write an email on a Tuesday at 3:00 and you call it Mr. Hughes, it's guaranteed to get through to them. Apparently.
Yeah, absolutely.
He said sarcastically.
No, but this is the point, isn't it? That I think, looking for the silver bullet, I'm going to focus on the 4% that are in market at the moment. It is that basic human trait, which is to do the minimum that we can possibly do. So in one of our other shows, the digital download on a Friday, we had Dr. Hazel Harrison on, and she was talking about how laziness is a fight or flight response. If you can go from A to B by a short route or a long route, which route are you going to take? It's survival of the fittest, is that you do the minimum amount of stuff necessary. So the concept of here's a tool that will insert pointless narrative here, but let's just say deliver a constant stream of high quality leads into your business. Well, why is that not attractive? Of course it is. And nobody wants to believe, like, here's a watch and it's half its normal price, or you've got fantastic timeshare in a holiday villa, or whatever it is. All of these things are playing to that desperate human need of getting something for nothing, aren't they?
There's some great comments coming in.
I love that one from Danny.
Thank you, Danny, Jason, Nigel.
That's another good
point. I actually think, Danny, you've absolutely hit the nail on the head there. We are architects of our own issues to a degree. I think sales leadership is at that point of complete and utter addiction. And I was kicking around on LinkedIn and Google and various other places, trying to ask the question of some systems of, well, what does the future of sales look like? Because we've got all of this AI stuff coming down the line, and everyone's going, well, it's going to replace me. And there wasn't anywhere willing to have an answer. So it's interesting that we've probably got to do it ourselves. But I think the future for sales is going to be a dip. It's going to be a dip in the short term, because we're going to keep managing Salesforce as we have for the last 20 years, inspecting them in the way that we have for the last 10 years, and using technologies that have emerged in the last 5 years. And that isn't, it just doesn't work, because salespeople are just adults, and we just don't treat, and none of the great comments from Danny and Jason, we just don't treat them as adults, do we?
No.
So no wonder nobody wants to go into it, because you go, there's probably other things that I can do with my time.
When I was in corporate, I really, it was quite interesting, because we'd go out and be able to afford to buy the best people on the market. And then when they came in the organization, everyone said, well, they're a bunch of idiots. And they were treated like that. And it was like, but these people are adults. And what's wrong here? Is it the salespeople, or is it the recruitment process?
But it's the overarching attitude, because it's that kind of, we're going to go out into the market, we've got deep pockets, we're going to afford the best people we possibly can. So I'm going to hire you because you're the best salesman that there is, and then I'm going to get you to change what you do and do it my way.
That's exactly it.
Rather than saying, I'm going to hire you and let you do your own thing and be a high performer.
Culturally, they're not prepared to have that high performer perform at the highest level. I love Danny Wareham's comment. If you can pop that one back up for a minute. The hate to sound cynical, but we're often the architects of our own issues. Mm. Like, buyer behavior has been changing for 15 years. The CEB first kind of identified that, buyer behavior had started to change, and 60% of the purchase decision was concluded by the time the buyer reached out to a seller. That's because they don't want to be sold to. But we spent the last 15 years, we being the industry and businesses, selling to buyers, as opposed to building meaningful relationships with buyers. And it got, thinking about this question before the call today, one of the things that I used to hate is every year territories would change, the sales strategy would change. And as a salesperson, you have to start again. All those relationships you've spent an entire year building.
Oh, yeah, I've never understood that. Never understood that. Particularly because even the organizations that are resetting your territories and giving you new accounts acknowledge that it's an 18-month buy cycle. So just at the point that the customer is about to buy, and I have a good relationship with them, you take me away and put me somewhere else. So the next guy that comes in, Tim has to come in then, and it's like, hi, I'm Tim. Well, who are you? It's like it totally resetting it and back to square one again.
Yeah. So Andy, Nigel's comment about Gallup released the latest report.
I was just reading that, yeah.
Of the workforce are now disengaged. It doesn't. I'll read it out because it doesn't. Gallup released the latest report last week that 59% of the workforce are now disengaged from their employer and are quiet quitters, just showing up. This isn't laziness, but misled and uninformed leaders. We must re-educate sales leaders and empower them to be the people managers, not number managers. What do you think to that?
Wow.
I'm not going to argue with it because Gallup are pretty good at this stuff. I think...
But 59% still means that 41% are not.
Yeah, and those are the people that possibly in sales are the ones that are close to their number or being, the word successful, i.e. they have probably created their own space to run their own business and are competent and confident enough to manage their managers upwards. That's probably where you look at this stuff. Like, and we've all seen them really highly comfortable salespeople who can manage the chain upwards, and therefore the manager doesn't even try to manage down.
Yeah.
But I think the interesting piece around it is, and I love it, is people managers. Is sales tends to be, particularly in sales-led companies, quite an identifiable ecosystem of people. Let's look at the average organisation in the UK. It probably has 200 salespeople. That's round about the average. It's really frightening, and it is answering your point, Tim. It's really frightening to say, I'm going to let that 200 people do broadly their own thing and manage themselves their own way within this, freedom within the framework. And I have these conversations with some people about, let's look at the 4 ways, we talked about it last week, the 4 types of learning in sales. And that frightens them. So what you're actually asking me to look across my sales force and probably put 30 people in this bucket and create learning for them, 50 people in this bucket, 50 people in this bucket, and 20 people up here, or 70 people there and 20. It scares them rigid just to put those buckets together and think about learning tracks and learning pathways just for those people. Because it's far easier, Tim, to your point, to just go, you're all going to do negotiation skills. You're going to do presentation skills this week. And it's fascinating. I was up with a company last Friday presenting at one of their business meetings. And what's cool about this company, they'll be nameless to a degree, but not because they've done anything bad. They've done everything great. They take every single person in the business out and put them in a room and they talk about their business. And I mean everybody. The guy on the loading bay, the reception, everybody goes in. And they have this culture of then learning and developing and thinking about what they do. And what was really interesting, we did a bit of research with them because they wanted to talk about customer centricity. Everyone talks about it, but very few people can do it. And actually, they had identified 175 people responded to this internal questionnaire based on academic questions from a paper that looked at customer centricity. And they identified themselves that they were not focused on understanding the customer at every part of the buying journey. And they didn't feel that they had the best relationships. This is them self-diagnosing. And what it turned out was when we did some work and we did some sort of like secret customer work, they had been driven by the technology. And so the technological tasks that they would to achieve was the be all and end all. Example, you ring in as a new customer, you ask basically for a new, I want to become a customer, and they send you a link to the customer form. Tick, done. How about you keep me on the phone and go through the form with me? And it was, they knew that, and they've got started to get the answer.
But Andy, I want to go and make myself a coffee.
What you're describing there reminds me of this, the 4 disciplines of execution, where you bring people together and you problem solve. What are the activities, what are the behaviors that together we need to be driving in order to solve our biggest problems? That's a great example. I love that.
So we've had a couple of really great comments here. First of them was identifying this Gallup research. Employee disengagement hits a 9-year high. Okay, well, that's a concern for everybody.
Just so you know, the person that's coming up LinkedIn user, the reason why that comes up is that in your LinkedIn profile settings, you're not allowing to share data.
You're not allowing to share content onto other platforms.
Yeah. So you need to get so for LinkedIn user to come up as a name, you need to go in and change your LinkedIn settings.
I love Mark's comment. Salespeople are often seen in contempt by the rest of the business. They are, but actually, if you take it to MBAs, apart from Cranfield, don't teach sales. There's no MBA in the United Kingdom that teaches it. And I actually don't think it's contempt to a degree because of jealousy of pay. I think it's contempt because nobody understands it.
I think that's the point. I don't think the pay is the big issue here. I absolutely think it's the fact that because everybody has had some experience of sales. When I was at college, I worked behind the till in, whatever, clothes shop.
Tesco.
Well, I was thinking less on a checkout and more where you've got a real customer-facing role. So, you're working in Monsoon or Levi store or whatever it is, and you're dealing with customers. Sales is easy. People come in and they ask to buy stuff, and then you have to shopkeeper it to them and check they've got the right size, and then handle the payment, and out they go. That's what sales is. And actually, that is what sales is in some instances, but not what we're talking about, not B2B sales, not complex sales. And actually, the concept that you would actually have to change somebody's mind and you would have to work to make your product or service the thing that they're going to buy rather than just be a shopkeeper is a massive shift. And I think many people in the business simply don't understand that.
No, they don't. I mean, coming back to Mark's point about, people don't understand them. Typically, there's a contempt for salespeople. I call it the dog in the yard syndrome. So if you look at an MBA, it's like if you look at a bungalow, you get taught finance, you get taught marketing, you get taught operations. There's a room for all the things, and actually, therefore, all the disciplines in senior leadership. So a lot of leaders go through that, but there's nothing for sales. So actually, nobody trusts salespeople, not even their own organisations. I think is the point, Mark. So you end up with this. Well, I need them. So, but what I'm going to do is keep them outside. I'm going to keep them in the yard. And now I need to put some stuff around them and control them. So I'm going to put a fence around so they just don't go off the reservation, off the yard, and just tear off into the neighbour's yard. And I need to motivate them. So I'll throw them a pork chop through the window because that'll get them going if I want them to do something. And it's this complete concept of, it's all the shit we've been dealing with for 20, 30, 40 years. It's now coming home to roost. And we're surprised by that. We're constantly going, well, salespeople are, we can just redline them and get rid of them and we'll rehire them when everything's good again in the economy. Thanks for playing caller, but no, because there's no funnel of people coming anymore. They're not coming out of school going, we want to do it. That's the interesting thing coming back from the GSSI. The US are doing a really, really good job of trying to get young people into colleges and then out into organizations, but it's still got 700,000 open jobs. The pipeline is never going to be big enough. Same for the UK. We've got 3 universities doing it.
So I mean, obviously, one of the ISPs, Rosendetra, is to is to help elevate sales so it's seen as a proper profession and career and vocation, rather than a stopgap thing or something that you just turn up and process somebody's credit card. But what else can we be doing to try to raise this profile? Because this is a fundamental issue, isn't it? And it's only going to get worse as time goes by.
Yeah. I think the reality around that is...
Just read that. This is really interesting. Obviously, Mark is in sales.
Thanks, Mark. Really.
I'm completing my master's at the moment. No sales content. Here's the thing: I never treated the rest of the business with contempt during my 25. Isn't that interesting? That lots of people in the business treat sales with contempt. Sales doesn't treat other departments with contempt, because I think we all, from our sales experience, we all believe this, don't we? We all operated in this way.
Yeah, I think salespeople have, I'm going to be balanced here, I think salespeople do believe they're the only department that are measured. And what's fascinating about it, they're probably measured on the wrong things. However, yeah, I don't think salespeople wander around, and great salespeople do have a great passion for wanting to build teams and serve customers. And yeah, I think, Mark, you're spot on. The reality about it is we've got to elevate this, and there's some great work around pathways to professionalism that Chris Wyatt's leading in schools, and we are looking to do some stuff with AQA, who are the largest marker of exams, GCSEs and A-levels, and we're working with Darren Bailey there to see how we can do small 1-hour qualifications in schools to help young people understand. Now, to your point, Adam, then we need industry to weigh in on it. If we want to change the perception of sales nationally, then globally, you need the oracles of this world to say, here's 25 young salespeople. We'll go to all of the local schools in Reading and chip in and do these hour sessions and whatnot. But every company goes, no, it's okay, we'll find our own solution. There's not this collectivity in sales, is there? Really, it's everything's a competition.
Yeah, you're right, Andy. Yeah. Because for some reason or other, even though there's certain things which are very common across salespeople, we think that we're going to come up with our own solution, and never do, because it's always fourth on the to-do list, isn't it?
Well, and isn't that because more often than not, the salesperson on the ground knows what needs to be done to win the deal. Yet they're often pulled in different directions because someone else has a different idea. And therefore, there's this breakdown of trust, as you were touching on earlier, Andy, this breakdown of trust internally.
Yeah, I think Warwick University has a sales lab, and it'd be great. And sales managers are brilliant at completely unpicking anything that a salesperson is doing in the best way. Learning, don't worry about that. I just need your forecast. So basically what you've just said is learning on your own, self-directed learning, which salespeople are meant to be brilliant at, is just unpicked by the sales manager, yeah? This is what I do with the deal, Adam. This is what I do with this deal. So it ceases to be your deal and now becomes mine, but I'm not going to help you with anything. I'm not going to own it. I'm just going to meddle in it and mess your head up.
Absolutely.
And then when you win it, I'll take the credit. And when you lose it,
Yeah. I mean, how many managers go to a meeting and basically their pre-perceived role is, I'm here to give a discount. I'm here to land this deal by giving you a discount.
Yeah.
No, I'm here to see how my salesperson's doing and how to help them, and here to learn a bit about you.
Yeah, there's very few organizations that actually do that right. I think the majority don't.
It was really interesting when I was up at this company. I got to walk around where they were making some stuff, and I used to love that. And I talked about that. Actually, they were based on an industrial estate where I used to sell asset finance 30 years ago to that kind of. And what I loved is you could ask anybody in most of the businesses that I sold to, can you show me around? Can you show me what you did? And they go, yeah, absolutely. And you spend another hour walking around, but you knew their business then, and you found out things that were just fascinating. We don't have that level of inquiry and customer conversation anymore. It's all, I know we've got Zoom and it's hard to do on Zoom, But when you go into a customer, just why don't we? What do you do here? Can you show me?
Why is that there? Why are those tires all stacked up there?
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing that we've missed. And actually, if we're salespeople, isn't that part of our job? Yeah, you're meant to know the company so you can actually understand where you might be able to add value. Oh, hang on, you do that. We've got something that makes that go a bit quicker. Do you? Oh, I don't know about that. It's bizarrely insane, and we don't teach them young salespeople to do that. Now, I know in SaaS technologies and everything else, with all of this stuff, it's hard to do that. If you're selling in a package to an accountant, you're not going to go around and say, "Can you walk me around your office and show me you doing somebody's accounts?" There are industries where you can't do that, but you can take inquiry and understand what they're doing in different ways.
Curiosity.
Yeah.
Curiosity is key.
Yeah.
But I think, back to Alex's point about territories and being moved on, what you're asking people to do, though, Andy, is to get inside both your own business and the business of the customer. So, I'm working in company X. I'm dealing with a particular niche within the marketplace, a particular type of company or a particular individual company.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to have a broad understanding of what's going on in the industry, a broad understanding of what the challenges mean to individuals in that space, and a broad understanding of the company as well. And at the point that I've learned that stuff, because it takes time to absorb that, the point that I've learned that stuff, I'm moved somewhere else, because I'm just starting to run the risk of being effective selling to those people, and I moved somewhere else. How did that even become a thing?
Yeah, I think that's where my understanding of this is that's where the business cares more about the model and the long-term revenue generation than the people.
But how can it care about the long-term revenue generation in where you spent the last 12 months learning everything there is to learn about the printing industry? And then I say to you as your manager, Alex, actually, we're moving you from print to injection molding. And then all of that year of your knowledge gathering has been wasted.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying I've never understood it. Speaking from personal experience, as someone that was a high performer back in my day as an individual contributor, being asked to change for the good of the company and do the right thing for the company as opposed to performing at my highest level in terms of revenue generation, which I thought my job was. And I found that particularly difficult to do. I think to the point where if it had to change so much where I didn't believe I could be successful, and this comes back to another point we were discussing, I would leave. But then, then there's this whole idea of, well, you can't chop and change jobs because it looks bad on your CV. So I'll give it a bit more time.
Yeah, I mean, now though, if you look at LinkedIn and do some desk-based service, is people will stay about 18 months.
Yeah,
because effectively, and that comes back to the progression paradigm, which is how do you progress in a sales career in a organization, and unless you are going through management, you're not going to do it. So we all play around with LinkedIn. It's a great data source, plus or minus 10%, because people have to keep it up to date. But if you look at tenure, which you can get from the navigator panes, tenure's dropping like a stone. You go into sales and actually do just a random allocation of salespeople, it's always lower than the average tenure of an organization by some way, except the managers. And they're the outliers who've probably been there 10, 15 years. So actually, we're back full circle to this addictive leadership, which is I've been in a company 10, 15 years. I know how to navigate the company, but actually I haven't necessarily learned anything fresh in the last 10 years. So I'm running this organization and I'm running my sales organization on the fly. And actually, the unit of analysis and development for sales managers is dramatically underserved. and we need to invest very heavily as an economy in sales management development, so that they can be. I think somebody put it right down the bottom of the chat. If people management is the key thing, and then that opens up this other concept. Do you have to be a salesperson to be a sales manager?
Yeah, because sales. Yeah.
Just look at that. That's a terrifying statistic, isn't it?
Yeah, was it 18 to 20? Yeah, I'm likely to have held 5 roles, and actually that is driven by SaaS. We talked about it a minute ago.
Yeah.
So SDRs, BDRs, those type of roles didn't exist 10 years ago, and actually that's one reason why traditional sales organizations are struggling to hire, because these big tech companies and these rapid startups are hoovering up young people from university and then actually spitting them out on the other side, and then they don't go into another role in sales. They're beaten, they've had a disillusion, they go.
Yeah, and they can't solve this problem that is being created because they need the next job. So they're going to they don't have a big choice where they can say, do you know what, I'm going to go work for the company that gives me a solid career within sales that will see me progress and help me perform at my best. It's, I need a job, I'm going to have to take one of these jobs that are available to me. So I'm agreeing with you, Andy. So that the individual is never in a position to really solve the problem. It's the businesses, it's the managers that need to change.
But also, no young person ever says, I'm looking for a job in sales. I'm looking for a career in sales. I'm looking for a job in sales. Yes. I'm looking for a career in sales. No.
Well, the Apple boys are maybe bucking that trend.
Yeah, they are, but that's only because your lads have seen you as a career salesperson, and consequently they've seen that actually this is a career rather than a job and a stopgap. But nobody goes. Young people do go to university and say, I want to become a vet, or I want to become a mechanic, or I want to become a designer. They don't go to university or college and say, I want to become a salesperson because that's where my heart lies. That's where my career is, even if they get a huge amount of joy from doing it.
Well, and that's what needs to change. Some of these courses are called business courses, and it's thought, well, okay, it's business. If I do that course, that will help me perform in business. But perhaps we need a degree, an MBA in sales.
And again, that's really interesting, isn't it? Because the idea that we have work and we have leisure and the two don't intersect, this is really interesting. I'd rather do a job for lower pay and make up the difference by eBaying stuff and doing a bit of a Gary V on the side. I'd rather do that than do a job that I don't enjoy, or for a company that doesn't give me a vision and purpose.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty hard though in sales to connect to a purpose. There are companies that can easily do it, and therefore you're a salesperson in there and you're doing something about it. But if I'm a salesperson selling cardiovascular machines that get put onto bus stops that help people stay alive in an emergency, I can kind of go, I've got a real purpose. I'm saving people's lives. But Heinz sales beans,
accounting systems,
it's a hard one.
Well, is it though? I can see. I don't think it is. If you work for a good company that makes a good product, what would you rather eat? Beans that taste nice or beans that don't? What would you rather eat? Accounting software that works, that makes your life easier or more difficult?
But the answer, Adam,
great point, but it's not purpose.
But the answer to purpose is a table tennis table.
No, it's not.
Because that's always the answer to everything is or a pool table,
jelly beans,
and it's not purpose.
Yeah, no.
Because what we'll do is we'll give everybody in the company some swag. I've just got my hoodie and stuff like that, but that's not purpose. There's a secret ingredient that we're missing, and I think that there's probably a number of silver bullets. One of the silver bullets I think that we have to find and maybe, you know, we can discuss it, or even the audience come up with it, is how do we find purpose for people in sales where you haven't necessarily got an impact business? You know, if I'm selling wind farms, yes, I can feel that I know that I've got a level of purpose. But accounting systems,
Yeah, I think at that top level, really great comment from Danny. Sell sales to me.
Yeah.
You know, why would somebody say that's what I'm going to do with my life?
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different world though now, isn't it? I mean, just thinking about Glassdoor. If you want to understand what the company culture is, yeah, you are going to go and read what the people put on there.
So Danny, while we're talking, can you put sell sales to me into ChatGPT for us and find out what the answer is?
Yeah, that will be
because it's a modern solution to a question, and I'm being facetious.
Yeah,
I'm actually doing that now. Actually, so
okay, right.
we all are, aren't we?
How do you sell sales to young people?
There's always a vision.
I'll be frightened if it comes back and says you don't.
Alfred, I don't know if you've seen the Alfred just put up "Sell Me That Pen."
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen that meme that says the top says "Sell Me That Pen," and on the bottom the pen has ChatGPT written on it.
You've heard the best answer to that question, though, haven't you?
What's that?
Okay, sign this contract. Oh, but I need a pen.
Yeah. So Danny said even the AI is having trouble. Yeah. So I've just put it into ChatGPT, and what it does is I said, sell sales to me. Certainly, allow me to present you the benefits of sales and why they are valuable. So it's gone through and it's listed what sales is, rather than saying, here's why you should do that.
So ChatGPT is all about features rather than benefits.
Or benefits rather than outcomes.
Oh, the cynicism.
Yeah, but it is interesting, isn't it, that Tim's idea was, you know, this is a modern challenge, having to convince people to come into this industry, and let's find a modern solution to that.
Such an individual thing, though, isn't it? You've got to have your, you know, it's a, you know, I think back to myself, it's, you know, there's personal motivations and drivers, you know. With, you know, I chose to go into sales. Not many people choose to go into sales. They often fall into it.
Or they do a bit of sales whilst they're working out what they're going to do.
Yeah. So it's, you know, how do you inspire young people? How do you inspire people to take that step? That's the question.
So anybody out there knows somebody who's in this position that we could basically get on and have a chat with them? Is there anybody that willing to volunteer to come on and talk about what's it like to be in sales, you know, in the 20s, and why purpose isn't? What's purpose to you? We'd love to get somebody on to talk about it and share your experience. And thanks, Danny, for putting these things in. I know you're typing slowly, but they're coming through.
Yeah. No, very, very good. Very good. Yeah.
Well, why don't we get a young Abbott on the call next week, and somebody else who's in sales, and go talk to us why you do and you don't. Yeah, let's hear the argument for and against. We'll go and find somebody who isn't in sales and doesn't want the job.
Yeah,
that would be good as a balance between the two, you know, as a placebo.
Yeah. And then we can start to look at the differences as to maybe when we start to do sales TV in the US time zone, is go and let's speak to some of these people in these colleges, like Ohio State, Adam Rapp over there, who's got something like 600 students a year. Now it's going to be in its thousands a year, and working with industry. Why do people want to go in it there, and why do we not want to go in it over here?
Yeah. What's really interesting is seeing the comments from the people in the audience. So Danny said, it's amazing how many companies don't know why they exist. They don't have a vision or a mission. So how can you sell that? Really interesting that's the intersection between sales and brand, isn't it? And all of these different parts come together, and none of these, because so often companies and indeed individuals view these company activities in very siloed thinking, and the idea that silos exist is ridiculous, because every part of the business has to inform every other part, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, absolutely. You need an ecosystem. So it's interesting. I was just looking at the answer to ChatGPT, and I've got to say, why sales, it's a bit wishy-washy.
Absolutely.
And therefore what I'm looking at now is going, why do young people not want to go into sales? It's probably going to be a more compelling answer, isn't it? And that just says it all, that it's easier to understand why people don't want to go into sales, as opposed to be able to find the highlights of the role and the benefits of the role in order to encourage people to do that.
And in all seriousness, how many Gen Zs will actually ask ChatGPT what their career should be?
There's a blog in that, Alex.
There's a blog in that. So we are at time. So thank you everybody for your questions and comments. So Danny, Alfred, LinkedIn user, Mark, Nigel, Jason,
Two Jasons.
Two Jasons, and indeed Maxwell.
And Maxwell.
So
Thank you, Maxwell.
Yeah, so thank you all very much indeed for piling into the chat. And gentlemen, thank you. Enjoy your week, everybody, and we'll see you all next week. Until then, goodbye.
Bye, everybody.